At 3:14 in the morning, Clarissa Hale woke to a strange brightness filling her small bedroom. It wasn't a sound that pulled her from sleep. It was the sharp, cold glow of her phone vibrating across the wooden nightstand. The rain outside her Seattle apartment tapped gently against the window, but even that familiar rhythm couldn't soften the heaviness in her chest. She had been awake for a while, lying still, staring into the dark, sensing something she couldn't name. When she reached for the phone, her fingers trembled, not from age, but from intuition. A message flashed across the screen from her daughter, Alyssa. Clarissa squinted, reading the preview. "Mom, about Christmas Eve," her breath caught. She opened the message fully. "Mom, I know you help with the house, but Noah's mother, Vivian, thinks it's better if we keep dinner small this year. She wants it to be an intimate gathering. I hope you understand. Love you." Clarissa read it again, slower this time, letting each word pierce her. She didn't reply. She simply let the phone dim in her palm while the truth settled over her like winter frost. She had poured everything she had into a family that no longer saw her as part of theirs. Clarissa rose slowly from the bed, her bare feet meeting the chill of the hardwood floor. She walked to the window and stared at the quiet street below, watching the reflections of street lamps shimmer across puddles. It wasn't the message itself that hurt the most, it was the familiarity of it. For 2 years, she had swallowed her pride each time Vivian Caldwell made a passive remark about her simple taste or her humble background. She had convinced herself that patience was the pathway to peace. With a long exhale, she picked up her phone again and typed a single word. Understood. No punctuation. No emotion. A release more than a reply. What Alyssa didn't know, what no one in that household knew, was that Clarissa held the deed to the Ridgewood Heights home they lived in. The mortgage was in her name alone. She had paid every cent of the $350,000 down payment. She had carried the loan because the young couple couldn't qualify. And she had done it gladly because she believed in giving her daughter a good start. But as the sky slowly lightened, Clarissa felt something inside her shift. She was done being invisible, done being useful only in silence. Her mind drifted back 4 years, to when Alyssa first introduced Noah. Clarissa remembered how warm his handshake had felt, how sincerely he spoke about building a future with Alyssa. He had looked at her daughter the way Gerald used to look at Clarissa, soft, patient, hopeful. When they later met Noah's parents at a downtown bistro, Clarissa had dressed in her best sage green suit, wanting to make a good impression. The moment Vivian Caldwell swept into the room, Clarissa knew she had entered unfamiliar territory. Vivian carried herself like a storm wrapped in pearls, tall, poised, with a sharp, assessing gaze. "Clarissa, is it?" she said, barely glancing at her. "Alyssa mentioned you were a librarian. How quaint." Clarissa smiled politely. It was meaningful work. Vivian hummed, as though bored. Throughout the meal, Vivian dominated every conversation, her charity events, her vacation homes, her meticulous standards. At one point, she even commented on Clarissa's meal. "You certainly enjoy a hearty breakfast," she said. Clarissa only replied, "I enjoy good food." When they left, Alyssa hugged her. "She liked you, Mom," she whispered. Clarissa didn't correct her. Some truths were too heavy to place on a hopeful heart. The wedding planning had made the gap wider. Vivian took control of everything, the venue, the decor, the guest list. Clarissa paid for Alyssa's dress, a beautiful embroidered gown that Alyssa fell in love with instantly. But on the wedding day, Clarissa stood in the back while Noah thanked everyone except her. Alyssa blew her a kiss afterward. "I love you," she mouthed. Clarissa smiled through the sting. A year later, Alyssa and Noah approached her with hopeful eyes. "Mom, we found a house," Alyssa said, practically glowing. "It's in Ridgewood Heights. It's perfect. But we can't afford the down payment and we can't qualify for the mortgage alone." Noah shifted awkwardly beside her. "We need $350,000 to secure it." Clarissa's heart tightened. It was nearly all she had saved since Gerald's passing, her safety net. "If I help," she said softly, "the house stays in my name until you're financially stable enough to refinance." Noah nodded quickly. Of course, Clarissa. It's your house. We're just living in it. Alyssa squeezed her mother's hand. And Mom, there's a guest suite. A real one. It'll be your room whenever you stay. That promise, warm and hopeful, made Clarissa say yes. But 3 months after they moved in, Clarissa learned how fragile promises could be. One rainy Tuesday, she stopped by with a homemade lasagna. Using her key, she stepped inside and instantly heard voices. In the living room, movers were hauling in an enormous, overly ornate mirror. Vivian stood directing them like a commander in battle. "Ah, Clarissa," she said coolly. "Didn't expect you." Clarissa looked around. Her favorite armchair, the one she had gifted Alyssa, was gone. "Where's my chair?" she asked. Vivian waved dismissively. It clashed with the aesthetic Noah and I envisioned. Noah and I. Not Alyssa and Noah. Not Clarissa, the homeowner. Clarissa lifted the lasagna slightly. "I brought dinner." "How thoughtful," Vivian said, wrinkling her nose. "But we ordered sushi. Cheese and pasta are terribly unhealthy." Clarissa's heart flattened, but she stayed composed. She went to the guest suite, her room. When she opened the door, her breath caught. Boxes were stacked everywhere, labeled Vivian's winter wardrobe. A stationary bike sat in the middle of the room. Her bed was gone. Alyssa appeared in the doorway. "Mom, I'm so sorry. It's temporary." Clarissa looked at the clutter. "This was supposed to be my room." Alyssa swallowed. "The sofa bed upstairs is comfortable." Clarissa didn't stay for dinner. She drove home in silence, her lasagna cooling beside her. She told herself she was overreacting, that families were messy, that generosity required patience. But over the next 6 months, the exclusions sharpened. Sunday meals drifted to Vivian's mansion because it was more elegant. Clarissa always felt like an outsider seated on the edge of conversations. Vivian perfected her subtle digs. "Your hair would look youthful if you colored it. That cardigan is very practical. Living alone must be dreadfully quiet." Clarissa swallowed every comment, reminding herself she wasn't there for Vivian. She was there for Alyssa. But the distance grew. Noah became harder to reach. Alyssa canceled on her often, always with an apologetic voice. "Mom, I promise we'll have a huge Christmas together," she'd say. "Just us." Clarissa held on to that promise like a thin thread. Then Thanksgiving shattered it. Alyssa called 2 weeks before the holiday. "Mom, change of plans. Vivian booked a chalet in Aspen. There isn't enough room." Clarissa whispered, "I see." Alyssa added quickly, "But Christmas will be big. You'll help decorate, right?" Clarissa agreed softly. That night, she stared at the turkey in her freezer and felt foolish for believing in words without actions. When the 3 a.m. Christmas Eve text finally came, the message implying she was unwelcome, Clarissa realized she had become nothing more than an open wallet. No voice, no role, no respect. The next morning, she didn't go to her water aerobics class. Instead, she drove downtown to see Mr. Lawson, her attorney and longtime friend. His office smelled faintly of old books and cedar. "Clarissa," he said, standing to greet her. "You look troubled." "I want to review the Ridgewood Heights deed," she said. He pulled the file. "You are the sole owner. There's no lease because, well, it was family." Clarissa's voice was steady. "If I wanted to sell the house, how quickly could it happen?" Mr. Lawson froze. "Sell it." She nodded. "I'm done being taken for granted." After a long pause, he said, "The market is strong. If we price below value, we could get a cash offer within days." Clarissa leaned back, her hands clasped. "Do it." He studied her, then nodded. "All right, I'll list it today." She left the office with her heart pounding, not from fear, but from the weight of reclaiming her dignity. Within 2 days, Evercrest Properties, a private investment firm, submitted a full cash offer. They wanted immediate ownership, with the tenants given 30 days to vacate. Mr. Lawson called her. "Clarissa, they want to close on December 23rd. It's aggressive but legal." "Accept it," she said calmly. He hesitated. "Are you sure?" "I've never been more sure." She hung up, feeling both hollow and electrified. Alyssa texted her during those days, light messages asking how choir practice was going, whether Clarissa had seen a new movie. Clarissa replied politely but distantly. She didn't want to alert them. She wanted them to feel secure, unaware that a tidal wave was approaching. When closing day arrived, Clarissa sat in the conference room, pen steady in her hand. She signed every document with the precision of someone stitching a seam closed for good. The funds hit her account an hour later, and she felt nothing. No triumph, no regret, just release. Mr. Lawson handed her a thick manila envelope. This is the notice to vacate. But Clarissa, delivering it will be painful. She looked at him with clear eyes. They delivered their pain long before I decided to return it. Christmas Eve arrived gray and unforgiving. Clarissa, dressed with purpose in a deep burgundy dress, brushed her silver hair into soft waves, and put on the diamond earrings Gerald had gifted her decades ago. She didn't want to look wounded. She wanted to look whole. As she drove through Ridgewood Heights, she studied the familiar streets, the homes lit with warm holiday lights. The house she had paid for glowed like a magazine cover. She parked, straightened her shoulders, and walked to the door. When Noah opened it, holding a glass of scotch, his cheerful expression faltered. "Clarissa, Merry Christmas. We weren't expecting—" "I won't be long," she said gently, stepping inside. The house smelled of rosemary, roasted goose, and pine. Conversations hushed. Vivian sat proudly on the sofa, like a queen presiding over her court. Alyssa's smile froze when she saw her mother. "Mom, what are you doing here?" Vivian rose. "Clarissa, this is a private family gathering. It's inappropriate to just appear uninvited." Clarissa looked at the faces in the room, none belonging to her, though her money had built the space around them. "I only came to deliver a Christmas card," she said calmly. "Mom, please," Alyssa murmured, stepping forward, cheeks flushed with embarrassment. "Don't cause a scene." The words sliced deeper than she intended. Clarissa gave a short, breathy laugh. "A scene? Darling, this household has made a habit of excluding me quietly. Perhaps honesty feels louder." Noah attempted firmness. "Clarissa, maybe it's best if you leave." "Oh," she replied, "I will, but not alone." She opened her purse and handed Noah the envelope. He tore it open, skimmed the papers, and went pale. "Alyssa," he whispered. She sold the house." Alyssa blinked, confused. "What?" "No, she wouldn't." Vivian lunged toward them. "She can't. This is my son's home." Clarissa met her gaze. "It was never your son's home. It was mine." Voices erupted, but Clarissa continued, measured and calm. "The sale closed yesterday. Evercrest Properties now owns this property. You have 30 days to vacate." Vivian shrieked, "You're heartless. Throwing your own daughter onto the street on Christmas Eve." Clarissa shook her head softly. "No. I'm giving them legal notice. More courtesy than I received when I was removed from this very celebration." She turned to Alyssa, whose eyes brimmed with disbelief. "Homes require respect," Clarissa said gently. "You forgot that." Alyssa stepped forward, trembling. "Mom, this is our home. You can't just—" "It was a gift you treated like a guarantee," Clarissa interrupted softly. "Not a blessing. Not a sacrifice." Vivian sputtered from behind them. "You ungrateful woman. Do you know what kind of burden this places on my family? Where are they supposed to go?" Clarissa tilted her head. "Your estate is quite large, I hear." The room fell silent. Vivian's facade cracked. "Well, renovations, the guest wing." "Exactly," Clarissa said. She glanced around the house one last time. The decorations she wasn't invited to help put up, the kitchen where she wasn't welcome to cook, the living room arranged without her presence in mind. Alyssa whispered, "Mom, please don't go." "I must," Clarissa replied, "because staying here would mean accepting a role you assigned to me, a silent provider." She walked to the door, pausing to face them. "Merry Christmas." Her voice held no bitterness, just truth. She stepped into the cold evening, closing the door with care, not force. In her car, She finally let her tears spill, grief, relief, liberation blending into something indescribable. She drove until she reached the quiet overlook by the waterfront. There, with the rain streaking the windows, she allowed herself to break. The next month unfolded in waves. At first, Alyssa called every day, then every few days, then not at all. Clarissa blocked Vivian after receiving a barrage of furious messages. Noah's voicemails rambled with half apologies and half accusations. Clarissa listened to none. 3 days after Christmas, Alyssa finally reached her. "Mom, please. We can fix this. Just cancel the sale." Clarissa's voice was calm. "I can't. Even if I wanted to, the deed is already transferred." Alyssa sobbed. "We have nowhere to go." Clarissa breathed in. "Then you'll live somewhere you can afford. Like everyone else starting out." January arrived with quietness.
By
the 20th, Alyssa and Noah had moved out, settling into a modest 2-bedroom apartment in Meadow Run, a working-class suburb far from the polished life Vivian had groomed them for. Clarissa didn't visit. She didn't offer money. She didn't rescue them. Instead, she began rebuilding the parts of herself she had neglected, her independence, her friendships, her joy. She joined a book club, surprising herself with how much she laughed. She took watercolor classes, rediscovering the pleasure of slow, deliberate creation. At the literacy center, children clung to her sleeves, eager for stories. Clarissa felt like she was turning pages in her own life, finally writing a new chapter. 6 months passed before Alyssa reached out again. One afternoon in August, Clarissa found a small envelope in her mailbox, addressed in Alyssa's handwriting. Inside was a simple card. "Mom, please give me 5 minutes. I'm not asking for anything, only a chance to say what I should have said long ago. I miss you. I have news." Clarissa read it twice, then set it down. Her instinct was to protect herself, but something tugged gently at her heart. She texted Alyssa a meeting place, a small cafe halfway between their homes. When she arrived, Alyssa was already seated, fidgeting with her cup. She looked different, less polished, more human. "Hi, Mom," she whispered. Clarissa nodded, sitting across from her. "Hello, Alyssa." Silence stretched before Alyssa blurted, "I want to apologize." Tears welled in her eyes. "Not to get anything. Not to undo the past. Just because I was wrong." Clarissa folded her hands. "Go on." "We let Vivian control everything," Alyssa said. "We thought comfort meant loyalty, but it didn't. It just made us blind." Clarissa listened, her face steady. Alyssa wiped her eyes. "Living in Meadow Run, it's humbling, but it's honest. And Noah, he finally told his mother to stop speaking about you." Clarissa raised an eyebrow. "Vivian listened?" "No," Alyssa said with a small laugh. "She hasn't spoken to us since." Clarissa nodded slowly. "I'm sorry that happened." "I'm not," Alyssa replied. "Our apartment may be tiny, but it's peaceful without her expectations hanging over us." She reached into her bag and pulled out an ultrasound picture. Clarissa's breath caught. 12 weeks, Alyssa whispered. "It's a girl." The cafe noise softened around them. Clarissa traced the grainy outline with her eyes, emotion rising like a forgotten melody. "A girl," she murmured. "Yes," Alyssa said, voice trembling. "Mom, she'll need someone steady. Someone kind. Someone who doesn't give for praise but gives because she loves. She'll need a grandmother. Not a bank. Not a landlord. Just you. If you want to be." Clarissa felt the sting of tears, but didn't look away. She reached across the table and took Alyssa's shaking hand. "I would like that very much." For the first time in years, Alyssa's smile was unguarded, genuine. It reminded Clarissa of her daughter at 16, laughing under sunlit trees. A memory untainted by anyone else's influence. It felt like hope. Months passed and baby Lila arrived, tiny, wrinkled, warm, and perfect. Clarissa held her granddaughter for the first time in the Meadow Run apartment, which smelled faintly of lavender detergent and formula. "She has your nose," Alyssa whispered. Clarissa kissed the baby's cheek. And her mother's stubborn eyebrows, she teased softly. Noah hovered nearby, awkward but sincere. Clarissa? I know I didn't stand up the way I should have. She glanced at him, not unkindly. Growing up happens differently for everyone. He nodded, relief softening his shoulders. Clarissa didn't offer to pay their rent. She didn't buy them a new house. Instead, she visited twice a week, bringing meals, folding tiny clothes, reading bedtime stories from the same books she once read to Alyssa. She reclaimed motherhood not as a burden, but as a conscious choice. Vivian tried reaching out once, a strained message about meeting her grandchild. Alyssa deleted it. Not until she learns respect, Alyssa said firmly. Clarissa didn't comment. She simply held the baby closer, marveling at how a life so small could fill a room with peace. As time moved forward, Clarissa noticed a new steadiness blossoming inside her. She had expected motherhood the second time around, the grandmother version, to reopen old wounds. Instead, it healed them. One mild spring afternoon, she sat on a park bench watching Alyssa rock Lila gently in her stroller. Children shrieked joyfully nearby, chasing bubbles that shimmered like tiny rainbows. Mom, Alyssa said suddenly. Thank you for not giving up on me. Clarissa smiled softly. A mother's heart bends, Alyssa. But it doesn't break unless we let it. Alyssa looked down. I thought love meant sacrificing everything. Love isn't sacrifice, Clarissa replied. Love is boundaries. Without them, it becomes something else entirely. Alyssa nodded slowly, absorbing the words. Noah jogged toward them a moment later, holding 2 ice cream cones. Chocolate or vanilla? He asked. Clarissa chuckled. Vanilla, please. He handed it to her with a shy smile. For the first time, Clarissa sensed sincerity in him. Not politeness, not obligation, just humanity. And she realized she didn't need their perfection. She only needed their honesty. That was something money could never buy. Something Vivian had never understood. Summer arrived, bringing light that lingered late into the evening. On weekends, Clarissa and Alyssa strolled through open-air markets, browsing handmade crafts they couldn't afford when Alyssa lived under Vivian's standards. Alyssa held up a simple clay mug once and said, "This feels like home." Clarissa smiled. Homes are made of choices, not price tags. One day, as they walked through a community fair, a woman approached Clarissa. Aren't you Alyssa Caldwell's mother? The one who sold the Ridgewood Heights house. Clarissa's heart fluttered, but she stood tall. I am. The woman sighed with admiration. Good for you. Not everyone has the courage to reclaim their life. Alyssa looked at her mother with new understanding. People know about that. Stories travel, Clarissa said gently. But only you and I know the truth of it. That evening, Alyssa whispered on their walk home. I'm glad you did it. Losing the house saved us. Clarissa nodded, though a small ache lingered. Grief for the dream that never became reality. But she also understood that endings create space for beginnings. And beginnings, she realized, were unfolding everywhere. By the time autumn returned, Lila was crawling, tugging at furniture, laughing at shadows. Clarissa's apartment became her favorite adventure ground. One afternoon, as Lila clapped her tiny hands, Alyssa said, Mom, can I ask something difficult? Clarissa braced herself. Of course. Do you ever regret helping us buy that house? Clarissa took a slow breath. No. I regret allowing myself to be erased inside it. But the act of giving was never wrong. Alyssa looked relieved. I thought you might hate me for everything. Hate. Clarissa shook her head. No. I grieved. But grief is love with nowhere to go. Alyssa wiped a tear. I want Lila to learn from you, not from Vivian. Clarissa lifted her granddaughter, felt the small heartbeat against her chest. Then we teach her together, she said. Noah entered the room, holding a stack of job applications. I'm applying for a local design firm, he said. I want to build something from scratch. No shortcuts. Clarissa nodded. That's how foundations become strong. For the first time, Noah smiled without guilt. And Clarissa saw that maybe, just maybe, The family was learning how to be human again. Alyssa began inviting Clarissa to small dinners in their apartment. Nothing extravagant. Pasta, salad, tea. But the simplicity made space for conversation. One night, as they ate on mismatched plates, Alyssa said, "I think Ridgewood Heights made us forget who we were. We started living someone else's dream." Clarissa nodded thoughtfully. "Vivian's dream." "Exactly." Noah chimed in. "We didn't realize how much she was shaping our decisions. And how much we let her." Clarissa sipped her tea. "That's the thing about influence. It doesn't need permission. It just needs space." Alyssa reached across the table. "We're learning to take our space back." Clarissa squeezed her hand. After dinner, they stood on the small balcony watching the city's skyline shimmer in the distance. Alyssa whispered, "I'm glad you're part of our life again." Clarissa replied softly, "I never left. I just stopped standing at a door you wouldn't open." That night, as she drove home, Clarissa felt something warm settle inside her, a sense of belonging earned, not begged for. Winter returned, but this time the cold felt gentler. Clarissa decorated her modest apartment with handmade ornaments Lila had finger-painted. Alyssa visited often with the baby, sometimes just to sit quietly while Clarissa knitted tiny sweaters. "Mom," Alyssa said one evening, "Noah and I are saving for a house. A small one. Something we can afford." Clarissa smiled. "That's good." Alyssa hesitated. "We aren't asking you to help." "I know," Clarissa said kindly. "And I'm proud of you." Alyssa exhaled with visible relief. Later, while putting Lila to sleep, Clarissa hummed the same lullaby she once sang to Alyssa. The baby's tiny fingers clutched hers. Clarissa whispered, "You will grow up knowing love with boundaries, strength with softness. And you will learn that giving is beautiful, but only when it doesn't cost your self-worth." She kissed Lila's forehead gently. Outside, snow began to fall, quiet, soft, forgiving. Clarissa watched it drift under the streetlights and felt gratitude for a life rebuilt not through wealth, but through truth. Vivian re-entered the picture in subtle ways, as people like her often did. A text here, a comment online, a message passed through distant relatives. "She wants to be part of Lila's life," Alyssa said one afternoon, uneasy. Clarissa stirred her tea slowly. "What do you want?" Alyssa bit her lip. "I want peace. But not at the cost of repeating the past." Clarissa nodded. "Then set your terms." Alyssa lifted her head. "She doesn't get to dictate anything anymore." A week later, Vivian requested a meeting. Alyssa agreed. Public place, short time. Clarissa stayed home. When Alyssa returned, her expression was calm.
"She apologized," she said.
Clarissa blinked, surprised. "Did she mean it?" Alyssa shrugged.
"Maybe.
Maybe not. But I didn't accept it for her. I accepted it for myself." Clarissa hugged her daughter, proud. Growth wasn't measured by grand gestures. It was measured by boundaries drawn with quiet strength. As Lila grew, Clarissa became her anchor, the person she reached for when frightened, excited, or curious. One rainy morning, Alyssa said softly, "Mom, thank you. For everything. Even the hard parts." Clarissa brushed a curl from Lila's forehead. "The hard parts made room for this," she said. They watched as Lila tried to stack wooden blocks, squealing each time they toppled. "She'll have challenges too," Clarissa added. "But she'll learn what you learned, that mistakes don't define us unless we let them." Alyssa rested her head on her mother's shoulder. "I wish I had realized earlier." Clarissa shook her head gently. "Healing doesn't follow a schedule." Noah joined them, carrying warm pastries. "You two look emotional," he said, smiling. "It's a family requirement," Clarissa joked. He laughed, handing her a pastry. "Thanks," she said softly. They weren't perfect, none of them were. But perfection wasn't the goal anymore. Honesty was. One evening, Clarissa attended a local community event where an elderly man asked her, "Are you the woman who sold her daughter's house to save her own heart?" She chuckled softly. "That's one way to put it." He nodded. "Takes courage to walk away from what hurts you." She thought about that conversation later, sitting on her balcony with a warm blanket over her lap. She had once believed that giving endlessly was the measure of love. But she had learned that love with no boundaries was simply erosion. She gazed at the city lights and whispered to herself, "I didn't lose my daughter. I taught her how to find me." Lila's laughter drifted through her memory, bright and unburdened. That, she realized, was her greatest victory. Not the house she sold, not the money she regained, but the dignity she reclaimed. 2 years after the fateful Christmas Eve, Clarissa found herself hosting a small dinner in her apartment. Alyssa and Noah arrived carrying dessert, and Lila toddled straight into Clarissa's arms. "Grandma," she squealed. Clarissa hugged her tightly, breathing in the sweet scent of childhood. They ate lasagna at Clarissa's modest wooden table, talking freely about work stress, new hobbies, and plans for the coming year. After dinner, they played a simple board game, nothing expensive, nothing extravagant. Just laughter and shared space. As Alyssa washed dishes beside her, she whispered, "This feels like home." Clarissa touched her daughter's cheek. Home was never about the square footage. It was about the heart in the room. Alyssa's eyes softened. "You're the heart, Mom." Clarissa blinked back tears. "Now you are too." Later that night, after her family left, Clarissa sat by the window watching snow drift in slow, graceful swirls. She sipped chamomile tea and reflected on her journey. The sacrifice, the heartbreak, the confrontation, the healing. She realized that she had not lost a family. She had simply shed the illusion of one that existed only through her silence. What emerged from the rubble was stronger. Honest relationships, steady boundaries, and love that asked nothing but truth. She thought of Lila's tiny hand gripping her finger and whispered, "You will grow up knowing that your worth is not measured by what you give away, but by what you protect." She closed her eyes, feeling peace settle around her like a warm shawl. For the first time in many years, Clarissa felt entirely whole. And she understood, finally and fully, that the most valuable deed she ever signed was the one to her own self-respect. Thanks for watching. If you value stories of respect, dignity, and justice, please subscribe. It means more than you know, and it lets me keep sharing the lessons life has carved into me.